This is the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast, session number 239. Brett Cameron on Hypnotic Truth.
Welcome to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast with Jason Linett, your professional resource for hypnosis training and outstanding business success. Here's your host, Jason Linett.
So this week's session is an absolutely outstanding one. And just as a preview, I have to give the standard disclaimer. Portions of this program are hypnotic in nature. So when you hear suddenly a moment where there's a full-on demo in the middle of this conversation, don't listen to it while you're driving a car or operating a forklift. Hey, it's Jason Linett here. And I met Brett Cameron, who's on the program this week. He's out of Australia. We met for the first time at HypnoThoughts Live in 2019 out in Vegas. He came over, introduced himself as the vice president of the Australian Hypnotherapist Association. And then back when I went off to Australia, off to Brisbane about a month ago to do the closing keynote at that event, got to hang out and meet with Brett a bit more, got to watch him in action, doing a presentation, talking about the things that he has done to build his own thriving hypnotic business, and really just to hear his inspirational story. I had to make sure that you all heard that as well. So you're going to hear an incredible conversation here with Brett, where he's going to talk about how his wife first got into hypnosis, then the events that led her to get into that, and how that became an inspiration to start to learn that himself. And then, of course, bringing Michael Elner into the conversation. And as we started to talk about some of the strategies, some of the techniques, there's something that becomes a big theme in this conversation of giving our clients homework, which I love this as the concept because, again, giving them that ability to be a part of their own change process as it ought to be, bringing in that responsibility in terms of owning that success so they can hold on to that even long after you've worked with them. And even in a moment, as I mentioned there briefly, where I asked Brett about a technique that he might use, and as we like to say around here, show is better than tell. So rather than just say, I do spinning, Brett launched into his entire patter of what he would typically say to the client, which I can tell you right now, that's going to be a little module of this recording that chances are you're going to want to go back and listen to it again. And I'm now saying something out loud as a reminder that I have to go off and do this myself. I'm going to get that little chunk of audio where Brett does that demo. I'm going to get that transcribed for you. And if you just go to the show notes over at worksmarthypnosis.com, we'll just stick that for free in the transcription in the show notes of this episode. So again, after you listen to this, head over to the show notes at worksmarthypnosis.com. That's where you'll just see in the resources that are listed, we'll have a little transcription of that little really cool chunk that Brett shares. Plus also looking at, of course, not just what we do with our clients, but also how those clients find us. So not just because Brett comes from a sales and marketing background, I would say just as a person who genuinely cares and wants to get that messaging out there, you're going to hear some really cool insights about how to build a thriving hypnotic business. So links to Brett's website are going to be in the show notes as well over at worksmarthypnosis.com. This is an outstanding conversation with some real actionable content. And again, we'll get that little transcription posted in the show notes. And while you're online too, of course, check out hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. That's the all-access pass to my hypnosis business training library. So rather than having to invent things from scratch, rather than having to theoretically reinvent the wheel, start your business off or even scale things up with the tactics that actually work. As the, self-proclaimed hypnosis business guinea pig, here are the things that I've done, whether it's client referral streams, testimonial streams, search engine optimization, website design. It's really everything in a growing library that we keep adding stuff to. And it's not just the 100+ hours of training and done-for-you marketing campaigns. You're really joining a thriving online community where we're all there to support you, answer your questions, and support you along the way. So check that out, hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. And with that, let's jump directly into this week's content-packed session. Here we go, session number 239, Brett Cameron on Hypnotic Truth.
I came from a sales and marketing background, and I think that I had always been using NLP until I studied NLP formally and realized, hang on, I've been using that. And once I started getting into NLP and discovered hypnosis, it was almost like going down the rabbit hole. You just go down the burrow and you keep going, and you discover so much more. And it became a beautiful journey. But if I could take a probably more honest approach, it would be I learned hypnosis through my first wife. She was a graphic designer. And quite tragically, on our honeymoon, she was commenting about having difficulty walking. We were in Italy, we'd been doing a lot of trekking and so forth. And Cynthia said, "My legs aren't working well." And we thought, look, maybe you're just a bit tired. Let's just see how we go, rest up. And when we got home to Australia, we went and had it all checked out. And sadly, the diagnosis said, "You have motor neuron disease," which in America is ALS.
Mm.
And we thought, far out, that's not exactly the sort of news you're supposed to receive. And so she resigned her position at that time and decided to go on a journey of healing. And she tried everything known to man and then started exploring the alternatives or the complementary side, as in Reiki and kinesiology and massage, and discovered hypnosis and loved it so much. She said, "I'm going to restudy," because she was so determined she was going to be the only person in the world to ever beat this disease.
Mhm.
And even though she was given a 2-year diagnosis or a 2-year life expectancy, I still have pictures in my mind of her sitting in a wheelchair hypnotizing people.
Nice.
And she ended up living for 9 years, which
Oh,
was
wow.
quite beautiful. But it was almost like observing her realizing the power of hypnosis. And I, had to resign. I was in corporate. I was working as a national sales manager for a Swiss kitchenware company in the homewares industry, but I decided to get out of that so I can spend some more time with her. And I set up a business in Sydney, in Australia, doing business coaching. And the more I explored hypnosis, I was hooked. And I knew straight away that that is where my future is. So I studied and we worked together, had a hypnotherapy practice in Sydney and loved it.
That's amazing. I love that. And, really inspirational in terms of looking at how, discovering it for our own loved ones' benefits, and then kind of keeping that passion running from there. I want to rewind back to something you mentioned first off, which was that it's that phrase that anyone who's ever trained hypnosis will hear this from the people in the room that, oh, as soon as I started learning it, I realized I was already doing this. Could you get a little specific on that as to, whether it was from, the sales or even the marketing side of things, what aspects of that naturally led into the hypnotic skill?
I'm going to use the word which I'm always using, which is rapport,
Mhm.
rapport, rapport.
All three at
And
once?
all three at once, yeah.
Okay,
And
good.
as
Yes.
in, we are dealing with people, and it doesn't matter what it is that someone comes to see you about. We are dealing with a person. And so for me, the rapport starts when the person makes an inquiry from your website. So they have already started to see an element of you. And then when you have that first telephone contact, you are establishing rapport with that person. And it's about observing and listening and watching and just getting those vital cues and to get into that person's model of the world. And I think that's something that anyone from a sales background, if they're going to be successful, they have to have this innate understanding of communicating with people. And when you start to study NLP, and that's when you realize, oh, yeah, pacing and leading. Yeah, I know all about that stuff. Mirror matching. Yeah, I've been doing that.
Mhm.
But then when you start to apply hypnosis, you realize that this is such a beautiful, powerful communication tool where you're
Yeah,
just
that beauty that
communicating with
everything
people.
does start with that calibration. Everything does start with that rapport. I think when I was in Australia, you and I had the chat that there was a marketing convention that I'd gone to back in, I think, April or so this year. And the amazing thing was the big trending conversation at this event, which you have internet marketers from around the world at this event. The two big trending things were person to person communications.
Yeah,
Wow. And a
yeah,
package in the mail. Uh, so as much as it was like click through rates and, targeted marketing, but it all comes back to that rapport. People are connecting with other people.
yep. And if you don't have that connection, you're in trouble.
Hmm. Well, that sequence of know, like, and trust has to lead then to, of course, buy, but you can't do that unless that first few phases are
Yeah.
there. So that journey of it was your wife that was learning the hypnosis first. What was that sort of impulse to start to dabble and pick it up on your own, or was it a bit of a joint journey? Would you say?
Well, it was a more an observation where I was observing her and I was really intrigued and thinking, there is something in this. There is something amazing in this. And I would observe, people coming into her office and then leaving and then seeing them come back a few weeks later and hearing the comments, you think, well, these people have had an amazing shift. But I was also observing how the effect of self-hypnosis with her had been giving her such a calming strength. And I still believe that the application of hypnosis was one of the key factors that gave her a prolonged life, but also a better quality of life. Where when you have a life threatening condition, it can be a very, very stressful event. And to be in a situation where you can reduce that stress and to be calm and to be more receptive to healing, and hypnosis can do that. And I thought, well, there is certainly a great avenue to pursue as far as the healing powers of hypnosis. And I became very intrigued with that.
Which I love the sequencing of how you just said that. This is something that Richard Nongard was on the podcast again a couple of weeks back, if not last week, depending on the timing of the release, that it was talking about a specific study that was supporting people going through cancer treatment. And the study was specifically on operating in, working to reduce the nausea symptoms. I go back to Michael Elner, who would talk about how I'm not claiming I could cure or heal something, but when we get someone operating to the best of their abilities and connecting better with their body, they naturally begin to feel and function better. So to look
Mm,
at the sequencing of that we're not
mm.
claiming we can fix this. It's instead, here are the steps we can set in motion. And well, from 2 years to 9 years, there's a great bit of evidence towards that too.
Now, I also have a Michael Elner story. What a lovely man he was.
Oh,
And
yeah. This
since,
podcast is technically his fault or his claim, but
good on him.
we'll leave it at
Well,
that.
I'm hoping somewhere, somehow he is tuning into this because many years ago, now this is back in about, would have been 10 years ago, so we're talking about '09. Cynthia actually managed to contact Michael and we had a few Skype sessions with him. So this was when he was living in New York at the time. And we had a few Skype sessions with him. And I can still recall at the end of one session where he said, Brett, I want to have just a personal session with you because me as her full-time carer, and I was sort of caring for Cynthia at the time. And I remember having this beautiful session with Michael, and I can still remember, I can't think of the exact wording, but it was about the happy heart, the peaceful mind, and the playful spirit. And I thought,
That's exactly it. Yeah.
yeah, and I thought so, and I don't think I will ever forget the influence that he had because he was, I think, encouraging me that I have to learn a lot more about this, and here I am 10 years later doing that.
Yeah. So then what was that journey of then advancing forward in this?
Well, I studied hypnosis in Australia, but when Cynthia passed away, that's when I decided, all right, I've got to get serious about this. So I did further studies, and that was with David Kennedy in Brisbane, in Australia. Lovely man who sadly passed away last year. He was probably one of Australia's old stalwarts of hypnosis, very passionate man, and I learned a lot from him. And it was a stage when I realized, okay, I want to get really serious about this. And I moved back to my old hometown of Newcastle, and that's when I really stepped up and went down the serious route. And something that I think I might have had a discussion with you about when we were chatting in Brisbane was that you have to be careful of what you ask for.
Hmm.
Because back then I thought, right, I want to have a full book. I want to have a busy practice. I want to have so many clients. I want to have a 6-figure business. And I've got that. So now what? So yeah, it was a lovely sort of progression, but yeah, obviously a lot of things had to change to get to that point. but it was one of those moments of deciding you can really be serious about hypnosis and make this work as a profession and just love it. And I've certainly got on board in all of those.
Well, I'd say it's also that sort of evolution that we reach a certain point where that's the goal that we have. I flash back to when we had first moved to Virginia and we didn't have kids yet. My wife was commuting back and forth, 2 hours a day for a job in Washington, D.C. And the line was, "Hey, wait a minute, I'm young right now. I can burn out now," which was part of the goal of looking at, we were planning on having kids, and that was going to be about a year and a half down the road in terms of our plans, which worked out. But that was the time frame of seeing 35, 40 people a week,
Yeah,
which I'm massively grateful for the fact that I did that. And I'm massively grateful for the fact that I don't do it that way
yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
That we kind of go through that. I don't want to use the phrase of the proving grounds, but kind of earning those stripes and going, okay, now I can level things up. Now I can refocus and go, this is the aspect I get to focus on now.
Mm. And it's a good position to be in, isn't it? Where you can take that deep breath and go, okay, now it's time to regroup, knowing that what you do well. Where do we go from here? What's the next phase?
Yeah. And the side effect of that, and this may be a leading question, is it sometimes allows us to then pick the specific things that we work with best and focus on those. Have you found that as an aspect of what you tend to do?
Most definitely. Now, I think that when I started, like most hypnos, I think I just threw the net very wide and I caught a whole pile of different fish. Where now I know what I like to do and where my strengths are, and that is working with anxiety, PTSD, confidence, people that are stuck. And that's the area that I love to focus on. I love helping people to move through whatever it is that has them stuck. And that's probably where my core focus is, even though I still will be seeing clients for weight release and stopping smoking and fears and phobias. But if I know where my heart is, it's certainly working with anxiety. And I think that they're the kinds of people who you attract as well. It's almost like you put the energy out there and voila, magic happens. People with anxiety contact you.
Yeah, which let's branch off of that for a moment. So what tends to be that approach for you helping those people to release that anxiety?
Ooh. Well, it depends on who walks through the door, of course, but I take an approach where for me it's all about I don't have the answer. I always work from the premise that I don't have the answer. And I tell the client that, and nor do they, but that very creative, resourceful, unconscious mind of theirs does. So, what we have to do is we have to firstly get them out of the way so we can get that unconscious mind on board to clear the past, whatever the past is. So, I work on a simple theory of we all have different events in our life which may or may not have been too favorable, too savory, some events that we'd love to forget. Now, we can maintain the memory, we can maintain the learning, but what if we were to release the emotion from those events? And I just work on the simple premise of empowering people to be able to release the emotion under hypnosis so that they're now looking at things from a totally different perspective, knowing that stuff's happened. That was then, it's not now. And now they can start to create a new future without the anxieties and the emotional, other negative emotions from the past.
Yeah, it's that line that the best thing about the past is that it's already happened. We can't change the past. We can change the reaction though that it has upon us.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So there is not one thing from the past that we can change, but you're right. We can change the perspective of the past. We can change how the brain has wired and from the past. And if we can change the wiring, well, it's now green fields moving forward.
Yeah, and so we tend to have the audience that's mostly people that are already, working practitioners. So could you get into a little bit of detail in terms of, from some of the techniques, some of the approach of how you'd go about helping someone do that?
Well, there was one technique that Michael and I discussed many years back, which I've sort of put my own little spin on it. I just call it the spinning wheel. And it's I suppose you'd call it a dissociation process. And when you consider that most people who are experiencing anxieties will say that they're either feeling it in their chest with the heart palpitations or shallow breathing, or in their stomach with nausea and tightening of the stomach, or they have to find a toilet. So I will get them to not so much relive the anxiety, but to get in touch with where that feeling resides. And let's say, for example, they say, it's in my chest. So close your eyes and take some deep breaths. And now imagining right there in the center of that feeling, right in the center of your chest where that feeling is. I want you to imagine there is a spinning wheel. And if there isn't one, I want you to put one there now. Imagine there is a spinning wheel right in the center of your chest, and I want you to speed it right up. It may go really fast. When it's going really fast, I want you now to see that you have the ability to drag that wheel out from your chest. So it's now going to be a few inches in front of you. Do that now. And now you've got this wheel spinning like crazy in front of you. In a moment, I'll say the word flip. When I do, imagine you can flip the wheel over. So ready? 1, 2, 3, flip. And now I want you to give that wheel a different color, a nice, calm, tranquil color, something that just works perfectly for you. And now I'd like you to see you can bring that wheel back into your chest, back into the same spot. And in a moment, I'm going to say the word brake. And when I do, imagine you have a beautiful big handbrake and you can slow that wheel down. So ready? 1, 2, 3, brake. And just slowing it down and slowing it down and slowing it down. And before it comes to a complete stop, you can open your eyes. And I would say that more than 9 times out of 10, you can just see people's breathing has changed. They sit there with a stunned mullet look as if, wow, what's just happened? And it's beautiful to watch. And it's such a simple technique. And I encourage any hypno anywhere in the world, use it, change it, do whatever you need to, put your own signature on it. But it's a beautiful process of just breaking out of that state.
Right. And I love the aspect of utilizing the movement. There's a little phrase that I picked up from Scott Sandland years ago, which was, it's a bit of a lead, which is the statement that, well, clearly that feeling has movement. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to notice it. So notice what direction it's spinning.
Yeah.
Which, rather than having to say invent, but I love that. And I've used things like that similar over the years as well. So to look at the structure of, because people are often curious in terms of how, not just the techniques, which that was beautiful.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that, but the structure of, so someone now finds you, what are some of those mechanisms that you're doing to, have those clients discovering you and then coming in?
Okay. So you're talking about how they find me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I have a very healthy, happy website, which is doing a lot of beautiful SEO. So I would still get majority of my clients through Google searching. And interestingly, I'm not paying for an AdWords campaign. So the SEO that I've got on my website is working well. And I know that if someone was to, type in anything to do with hypnosis, hypnotherapy, Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia, whatever, I would come up on Google probably 3-4 times on page 1. So for me then, people would contact me via email or phone, and I would then be in the conversation. I always take the view, and this is my old sales industry hat, I think, I take the view that if someone has contacted me, that is a sale for me to lose. So it's almost as if that person is interested. They feel that I am the person who's going to help them to achieve whatever they want to achieve. And so for me then, it's just a matter of asking some simple questions about, firstly, why they feel that I am the person who's going to help them, because I don't want to assume that I'm the person. But it's about, well, what is it about me that they feel is going to be the key to their success? And really then it's about saying, well, okay, for anxiety, for most people for anxiety, I suggest that we look at 3 sessions. And the first session, my goal is for them to walk out at the end of that first session with no anxiety. That's my goal. And for most people, that will be achieved. I would love them to be able to walk out feeling no symptoms of anxiety, and maybe even having one of those feelings as if I have no idea what's just happened, but something is different. Something has shifted there. And I will be giving them homework. I always give clients homework so they can then go away and be doing daily exercises, because it's not about me, it's about them. And then a week later, they come back for another session. And I'll be doing a little bit of a mop-up operation, I suppose, but then I start to really build in the confidence and the empowerment. And I'm really wanting them to feel that they have the tools, they have the abilities to do anything they put their mind to. And then the third session, I want them flying. I want them feeling bulletproof, as if, you know what, they can go out and do anything that they put their mind to, because anxiety has been this debilitating thing that has held them back for how long. And now that they are free of anxiety, well, if you can do that, what else can you do? And it's really about, I love throwing a lot of open questions to people so that they can then explore what their capabilities are. Because once again, it's not about me, it's about them going out and just discovering new things all the time. It's just a beautiful thing to observe. And that's why I love working with anxiety, because you see people have that change. And they come back and they say, and it's interesting when some people come back saying, oh, I haven't really noticed anything really differently, but my husband has, and he told me this,
Mhm.
and my children reckon that I'm a lot calmer. And when I went to work, my boss was saying, what's changed? And they're thinking, oh, really? So nothing's changed. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it's one of those beautiful things about working as a filter that I introduce in the office sometimes, that it's fun when the measure of success is something not happening. You
Yes,
know,
yeah.
which sometimes there is that game where people will notice that change around you more so than you yourself. And, it's a bit of a relief when we're able to go through the day, sorry to use the phrasing, but not feeling horrible the entire time. Yet to have that reaction of someone else going, oh, you're much more calm. You're not taking this on so strongly. And just to highlight something there,
Mm.
there's this dialogue back and forth at times about booking the sessions as they go, and booking the sessions in a bit of a package, and many people out there who do talk about book a package of sessions. That conversation usually kicks off with the financial benefits, and you mirrored something that I tend to strongly agree with, which is that the process is not just about fixing the problem, it's about transitioning into that solution. And I see that best off in that multiple session format. Similar, I kick off with 3 as well for anxiety. And from that description, you're not, from what you just said, to express that, I'm sure, to a client, no one's going, well, let me do one and see how it goes. They're seeing this is going to be a process. This is their part of that. And this is what you're going to be doing to support that too.
But Jason, this is also about them seeing you as the professional who they want to know that, hang on, I am coming to see someone who is going to help me to move through whatever the hell it is. So
Mhm.
I love packages, and I structure my packages where I'll say to someone, okay, 3 sessions, we can. At the moment, I'm charging 450 Australian dollars for 3 sessions. Soon to have a price increase, but if they do want to pay session by session, I'm fine with that, but it does work out about $100 more expensive if they do want to pay session by session. So I'm not saying that you can't do it, but I also want to give them a financial incentive to commit to a program. And it's about them saying, all right, this isn't going to be just a one session, one fix, and I'm done. This is about, there is a program. There is a program that I've applied to hundreds, thousands of clients over the years, and I would love you to have the same enjoyment of success that they have. So,
Yeah,
and
there's simple, just transparency in the phrasing that, well, the reason I schedule it this way is because over the years, this is what I've found to be
yeah,
the most effective.
yeah. And I do that the same with smoking or weight release or some things. Yeah, I'll tell people quite honestly, one session should be enough. As in, if someone has a fear of flying, I'll say, look, seriously, one session, we can do this. We can do this in one session. We can collapse the anchors, we can empower them, and we want you to feel comfortable that that flying anxiety is gone. But then for other things, we certainly need to look at other avenues, and therefore 3, sometimes 4 sessions plus. IBS, for example, if I'm seeing someone for IBS, I'll say, look, yeah, let's do 3 sessions, but I want you to put in your mind that it could be 6 or
Mhm.
more. So once again, you're sort of sowing the seed that this is a process. It's not just quick fix, get me out of here.
Yeah, and you mentioned giving homework. What would you typically do as homework?
Homework, I would certainly be giving them breathing exercises, the power of breath and being able to focus on breathing. I'll give them, there's a mantra that I teach everyone, which is this brain is having a thought. This brain is having a thought. This brain
Nice.
is having a thought. Not my brain, but this brain. And that's something that I learnt from Stephen Brooks, English hypno based in Thailand. And it's such a beautiful, simple mantra. And I've had so many clients come back saying, that is weird. It works.
Yeah.
And it's really empowering them that once again they are in control. Um, and it's interesting. Years ago, I was doing a bit of EFT, and it's something that over the course of time, it just totally slipped out of my repertoire until when I was over at Hypnothoughts in August, seeing Mike Mandel, and he's doing all the tapping. I thought, you know what, I've got to get that back. And I've
Mhm.
been doing a lot of tapping on a daily basis myself and teaching that to clients as well. And it's really interesting just hearing people come back. That's really interesting. It really it's quite uplifting. You think, oh, really? And it's just a beautiful thing. And I also have a questionnaire that I give clients between the first and second session, which is a questionnaire that I've created basically called Who Am I? And for me, it's about helping people to peel the layers of the onion to get to the core of who the hell they are. Because when it comes down to identity issues, as far as people talk about anxiety, and when you ask, well, whose anxiety is that? Oh, well, I know that that's something that the mum does all the time. Oh, right. So it's something your mum does. So is it yours or hers?
Mm.
And then you start to peel back a few other layers, and people start to realize, yeah, there's all these other behaviors that maybe they're not mine either. Well, why don't we hand them back to someone because it's not yours? And it's about once again, helping people to find out who the hell they are. And I think
Which I love that as a filter, and I'd share a through line that the newer Jedi mind trick that I've put into the stop smoking clients is that question of how old when you started, what was the story, where did you find them? Oh, so it wasn't even your habit in the first place.
yes,
Oh yeah, and I
yeah,
mean you brought up a through line that here is a moment many times over the years where I've really only had one person who tried to claim that their fear of needles was hereditary. It's genetic. It's passed down. I'm like, well, people existed before there were needles, though. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
so that was quickly unraveled. But to look at how here was someone that it was because the mother and the grandmother were so superstitious that man wasn't born with the ability to fly. Therefore, it's completely out of the ordinary for someone to get on an airplane. That's a horrible thing. And to realize it wasn't even his fear. It was something that other people were saying around him. And that tends to be a bit of a through line with some of the anxiety, some of the patterns, though then again, some of these strengths are often, influential in the parental, sort of lineage of things. As I could say, my 8-year-old daughter is an expert now at unpacking violations of the meta model. You always do that, always, which is
that's
even
great.
been repeated back to us from the teachers now. No, but I love the approach of looking at how, you know, looking at the person as the whole and clearly understanding it's not just the close your eyes, let's do the work. It's about dealing with the entire system of the person. So, what are some of those other issues that you tend to find you work well with?
A lot of, well, okay, smokers, even though I can't say that I'm sort of passionate about seeing smokers because I think I've been doing this so long and, okay, another smoker, another smoker, another smoker. So I actually have to get out of my way because, yeah, I like to be passionate with my clients. I really like to be present. So the things that I'm seeing a lot now, in fact, it's interesting. All right, I'm going to wind that question back to an avatar. If I would say an avatar client for me is male or female, 30s through to say 50, the person who has had an education or a profession, say a woman has met someone, they have settled down, had children, and they get to a stage in life where the kids are growing up and they're asking, well, who the hell am I? So they've really lost their sense of identity, their sense of self. And that's also the same with guys, where the children are growing up and they've got to this stage in life where people might call it midlife crisis. I don't know, but it's about trying to work out, well, who the hell am I and where the hell do I want to be? Because I see my dad had a heart attack at this age, and I don't want to go down that road. And this, it's a beautiful age of discovering the strength within to change. So that is my avatar. That's the people who I love working with. And so I've been developing sort of empowerment programs based around those kinds of people, to be able to sort of almost step out of themselves and just observe themselves to work out, well, who am I and where do I really want to be? And how can I rediscover myself? And I love telling stories in my sessions. So I'm always, telling looping stories, and a lot of them are sort of based on personal experience. But I'm always telling a story about my 95-year-old father-in-law who doesn't take any medication, loves to sit down and have a cognac with you, always beats us at backgammon. And he's only just come back from traveling in Egypt. And when he was in Egypt, his daughters who live in Pennsylvania, they contacted and said, why don't you come over? Oh, okay. So here he is at 95. He flew over to the US. He was over there for a month. And now he's come back home. I'm thinking, far out. I mean, when you see someone that age doing this, I'm thinking, I don't care how old you are. You can do anything in life. So when I get clients at any age coming, I just want to see them for what they can possibly be.
Which you also just highlighted something outstanding there, which is that if we can define that, let's say, custom client avatar, that ideal person
Yep.
that we know we're going to work best with and we're going to help them in the best ways possible, if we can identify that, we can now start to get more specific to go, okay, so I'm writing now to a specific type. I can now speak their language. I share a through line there on that one, which is that I tend to be that small business owner, that entrepreneur, that here's the business life that's going fantastic. However, there's this imbalance that it's not quite affecting their personal life. And let's create that system where now the same skills you have over here, you can now bring back to yourself. And we can speak their language now because we've identified what their needs are.
Most definitely. And I think you also have to pull your own personal experience in through there, because for me, it's all about balance of work, life, family, travel, self. And not forgetting yourself in that and making time for yourself, but just finding out, well, what are your passions? What is it that gets you going? Because a question I often ask people, are you a human being or a human doing? Because a lot of people, they're just doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about finding the space just to be and
Yeah, which
finding
is the
who do
beauty
you
of
are.
a simple back to the homework, the, assignment of the breathing. It's bringing them into the present. It's bringing them into the moment. It's connecting them with something that's actually happening right now, as opposed to some story from the past or some perceived anxiety about the future.
Yeah, and I also like to bring in the three brain theory, because it amazes me at times seeing people who are so stuck in the headspace that they have no idea they've got a heart or a gut, no connection with emotions. And so it's about letting them know that, all right, you've got a brain in your head for thinking, you've got a brain in your heart for feeling, and you've got to trust your gut brain. And about bringing people in touch with those three brains for any major decision they have to make in life. And it is interesting when you see people coming back after they've got homework, and I've asked them to explore the three brains with key areas of their life, and they come back with a totally new perspective. And that is one of the key homeworks that I give people.
Yeah, yeah. So, in inviting you on here is one part, not just for meeting you at HypnoThoughts and then also at the Australian Hypnotherapist Association convention, but looking at from the presentation you did, just looking at the entire system of how it's all these moving pieces that are really just helping people to qualify themselves as being that person who's now ready to work with you, and looking at the systems. How can people reach out to you?
My website is www.cameronhypnotics.com.au. Now, on my website, I have a whole pile of information about hypnotherapy and all the different programs that I offer. I also have a shop there where I have my self-hypnosis MP3s for download. They're also on Spotify and Apple Music. But you'll also find over the next short period of time, I'll be looking at starting to develop mentoring programs as well for other practitioners, because I'm really passionate about giving back to this profession. And it really bothers me that there are so many amazingly talented hypnotherapists out there who are struggling in business. And I know this is something that's really one of your passions too, Jason. And there is this guy who has this line, which is work smart, which really bothers me because I like it. I like it. But yeah, I'm with you. It's all about, if we can lift this profession to another level, we all grow. It's beautiful if
Mhm.
we can do that.
Yeah. I mean, looking at what good are the skills. I mean, I was open with everyone when I was down in Australia going, okay, so I know I'm the closing spot. So I've prepped 3 hours of content knowing I've got about an hour and a half because I'm going to listen to see what people need. And one of the first things I said up there was, oh, good, this already happened here. People walking by and going, oh, I know, but you're the business guy. I'm more of a clinician.
Yeah,
And yet the follow-up question, they weren't really seeing clients. So we have to look at both sides of it. And back to how we started this conversation, that the same skills you were learning in the sales and marketing world, eventually then pulling into hypnosis to go, oh, yeah, I'm already doing this. Now I can do it intentionally.
yeah.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, any final words for the audience out there?
Stand in your truth. That is my motto. You have to stand in your truth. You have to get out of your own way, and just to let your own creativity and your own natural skills flow through, because there are so many people out there, as I said, who have such a beautiful ability to be great therapists. But don't let the passion die. Keep growing.
Jason Linett here once again, and as always, thank you so much for interacting with this program online, subscribing, sharing it on your social media streams, and really using this as an ongoing resource. It's kind of cool when this was not the original intention, but when people are having dialogues in various Facebook groups about hypnotic issues, how sometimes someone pops up and goes, oh yeah, Jason had a podcast session about this. Oh, the conversational influence around stop smoking. Well, here's Jason's episode on that. Or even somehow a little video I put up online. It's on YouTube. Just do a search yourself for Elman Skype. The modifications that I've done to make the Dave Elman induction work in a Skype or even video conferencing, Zoom session. So to look at this being a bit of a gift to the community, an ongoing resource, your reviews online help to increase that visibility and help me to learn from you what we can do the best to help you out. So thanks for listening. Thanks for your feedback. Again, check out hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. There's no need to do all of this on your own. Join a thriving community that's there to support you and help you to, yes, indeed, make it rain, because we help people. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast at WorkSmartHypnosis.com.
Hey, it's Jason here, and reading is lame and videos are awesome. So do this right now. Go ahead and click subscribe right here inside of this video, and that will link you to my YouTube channel, and you will be the first to find out as new information is shared here online. Click subscribe now. Stay in touch. I look forward to hearing of your success very soon.